This next question quite intrigued me. I'd never thought of this before, so hence I thought, I might have to have a think about this. First of all, the first part of the question, should Elohim in Genesis 3 verse 5 be gods or God? Well, Genesis chapter 3 verse 5 says, for God doth know, and that's Elohim, doth know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, Elohim, knowing good and evil. So it's both in the King James Version. And I think they were given a sense of that is actually the capital and the lowercase g there in Genesis 3 verse 5 in the King James at least appears to fit in with what is said then in Genesis 3 verse 22 where it says, and Yahweh Elohim said, behold, the man is become as one of us. Is become as one of us. So it would seem therefore that Yahweh Elohim, God, if you like, said that man will become like one of us, like one of the mighty ones in this knowledge of good and evil. Now, the idea of this knowledge of good and evil coming from experience, I guess the question comes from the idea that when we do something, it becomes easier to do it, don't we? So if we do something wrong, we tend to be able to fall into that same trap again more easily. And I guess that could be the train of thought here. But I think quite clearly from this chapter, you can see that this is, if you like, from a supernatural sense. We'll come to the wording used in Scripture in a minute. First question, is experience hereditary? So this was something that was going to be passed on, wasn't it? So it's something that was going to become part of human nature. Now, in Genesis 3 verse 22, it also says there that Yahweh Elohim says, behold, the man is become as one of us to know good and evil. Do God or the angels know what good and evil is through experience? I would suggest not. Now, interestingly, Genesis chapter 3 verse 5, Genesis 3 verse 4, clearly serpent is 100% wrong. Genesis 3 verse 5, every statement he makes in Genesis 3 verse 5 pretty much is supported by the rest of the Genesis chapter 3. So what he says in Genesis chapter 3 verse 5 is actually correct by the serpent. So it says there, he says that their eyes would be opened. And that is repeated in Genesis chapter 3 verse 7, isn't it? So Genesis 3 verse 7, the eyes of them both were opened. And I would suggest this is the scriptural phrase of that change, isn't it? Their eyes were opened. They suddenly perceived something they had not perceived before. It was an immediate occurrence that was brought about by, if you like, supernatural means or by the power of God working upon them. So the serpent was correct that their eyes would be open, and I think this is the way that we are to understand that is a miraculous change, if you like, to their nature. And they knew from that they were naked. So this was not taught from experience, was it? They suddenly knew something that they'd never known before. So this was a change in their perception, an immediate change in their perception. This was not an experience that taught them they were naked. It was actually a miraculous, if you like, a miraculous change in their understanding, in their perception there. They knew something that they had not known before, even though it was an evident fact before that. And also, if we think about it, we say, okay, we've got two trees in the garden. We've got the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What does that bring? Knowledge of good and evil. We've got the tree of life. What does that bring? Life. How would the tree of life bring life? Supernatural event, wouldn't it be? Miraculous event. So how would the tree of knowledge and good and evil bring about knowledge of good and evil? It would seem, therefore, very likely that it would happen through a similar remarkable, miraculous event. So it would appear then that Adam and Eve lost their innocence instantly, didn't they? As the serpent had said, in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened. And the language of Genesis is exactly that. The eyes of them both were opened.